Optimism is wonderful. Goals can be great, and positive thinking can be very useful. However, this book argues they're not always as good. In fact, you can potentially undervalue negativity and undervalue the not doing things, and that can potentially lower your overall happiness. Hi, I'm Chris, I'm a doctor. I've read this book, do my best to summarize it. So, positivity's got lots of benefits. Take a look at my other videos, for example. But if you're able to manage uncertainty and get comfortable with failure, potentially things for you may be even better. Because often we'll promote this kind of positive mindset, and you can see how it works, because if you think positively about something and it works out, you think, great, that was positive thinking. If something bad happens, like all your trees fall down, and you think, well, I need to approach this with a positive attitude. And the thing is, positivity is temporary, and whereas when you're actually thinking about it and learning about it, you kind of suggested you should be positive all the time. But negativity and positivity in your mind, they do wave. This book argues that mindfulness is overhyped, as if we live in the moment and the moment itself isn't very good, life isn't very good. There's this backwards law which is clinging to a particular version of a happy life, while fighting to eliminate all possibilities of an unhappy one. And that's actually the cause of many problems, not the solution, because life is full of challenges, and you won't be able to eliminate them all from just purely a positive mindset. You may have heard of the Yale study. This was about goal setting. Many inspirational speakers such as Tony Robbins quote this, saying they followed up a cohort of Yale graduates who wrote down goals and didn't write down goals, and they found that the ones who wrote down goals achieved much more later on. The difficulty is, when you look into this study in more detail and approach Yale as the author did, it didn't actually exist. And if you ask the inspirational speaker who gave the evidence, they'll point to another speaker such as Tony Robbins, may say Zig Ziglar, who would then have said Tony Robbins. So one of the things I'll point out, that for some people it's a revelation to realize that the whole of your life is only ever now, i.e. there's no future or past, it's only now. And many people have lived their lives as if it isn't true, as if the opposite was true, and without noticing it, they treat the future intrinsically more valuable than the present. So that would be thinking, what about next week? What's going to happen there? Instead of enjoying the moment. But that can equally be an overgeneralization, and that's what this book argues against mindfulness, for example. The issue with self-esteem is if you teach it, you can potentially teach and encourage arrogance, conceit, and superiority. And high state self-esteem can be useful, but when it falters, the person may then have guilt, depression, and even feelings of inferiority and insecurity. And so therefore, try and just drop generalizations. You can instead rate yourself as an individual who's perhaps doing good acts and bad acts. And, you may want to seek to perform as many good acts as you can and as few bad ones as possible, but leave yourself out of this equation. What's problematic about the goal of security is that to obtain real happiness, it might be dependent on being willing to face, tolerate insecurity and vulnerability. And we'll often seek fulfillment with others, with strong romantic relationships and friendships. Yet if we strive too hard to get security in these, it can actually stifle the relationship and suffocate things. Because for a relationship to flourish, it depends on this kind of degree of uncertainty and a balance between positive and negative emotions. So a psychotherapist may argue that to be vulnerable is to be without defense armor, being authentic and being present. And when we're able to feel vulnerability, is when we're actually then able to experience the full range of motions and reactions to the world around us. Nairobi is an example of significant financial inequalities. On one hand, you'll have a grand mansion of a senior Kenyan politician, and a few minutes' walk, you've got a slum. And there have been lots of studies looking at the happiness of the poorer people, and they're all often surprised that the poorer people are quite happy. And you could put a good few arguments as to why this is, but if you're already living in a situation of such inherent insecurity, which is far from preferable, then you're actually not living under illusions, because you're actually facing hard reality directly, and you don't have an option to protect yourself or make counterproductive ways of being resilient. In fact, you have to just deal with the situation, and this can give you extremely durable character traits and perhaps would help you be a happy individual. Perseverance, charisma, leadership. You'll have all heard of these in successful leaders, and you think, oh, is that what you need to be successful? But let's take a moment here. If you are a very unsuccessful entrepreneur, you probably have got perseverance because you continue the path that isn't working, charisma and leadership skills by being able to obtain other people's money and woo them into the sense of, this is a good idea, let's fund this. So just be aware that these are potentially good traits, but they are not the solution. Perfectionism is really a fear-driven strive to avoid the experience of failure at all costs. And that's extreme at all costs, and it's exhausting and a really stressful way to lead your life. The Stoics noted that tranquility can be achieved by choosing not to be distressed by events. So clearly, we cannot control events. I could not control a storm with a tree landing on my roof 2 days ago, but what I could control is how I respond to that. And just think, you can't choose the events, but you can always choose how you act towards them. Buddhists have this willingness to observe the inner weather of your thoughts and emotions, and that's perhaps a key to being able to understand what you actually need. You're not you can sense your thoughts and emotions, but they need not actually dictate your actions. A small habit to consider, just to consider, may be a powerful form of a memento mori. This is a reminder of inevitable death, because if you can have a reminder of death built into kind of mundane day-to-day rituals, then it actually can help raise the awareness of death, which potentially can then mean that when you're having that balance of mortality and life comfortably coexisting, perhaps the kind of companionship of that could help you improve each day by living it to the fullest. Let's end on a more positive note. If you can specifically figure out what you want to do, and you can focus then on life's flavors, you could potentially then reach death having enjoyed your life as deeply and as much as possible. And that's what I want for you, to enjoy your life. Because life is a dance, and it's when you're dancing, you're not intent on getting somewhere. You're actually just enjoying the moment, and the meaning on and even the purpose of the dance is to dance. So, I hope you found that helpful. Feel free to like, comment below, subscribe. I'll see you next time.